Marcus Whitmore never noticed the janitors. At 53, the millionaire CEO of Whitmore Corporation lived in a world of polished glass walls, silent elevators, and boardrooms where deals were struck over the clink of crystal glasses. His days were measured in profit margins and phone calls with people who wanted to be him or feared him, or both. He walked through the marble-floored lobby every morning without seeing the people who made the floors shine before the sun even rose. But one morning, Marcus stopped. Isaiah Carter, 28, was mopping the floor under the glow of the lobby's golden lights, earbuds tucked in, eyes focused, moving with a quiet determination that felt out of place in a world rushing towards something bigger and faster. His janitor's uniform was clean but faded, sleeves rolled up, exposing forearms marked with faint scars that told stories no one bothered to ask about. His hands were steady, controlled, as if every swipe of the mop was deliberate, almost meditative. There was no slouch in his posture, no bitterness in his face, only a quiet, persistent focus that made Marcus pause as he stepped off the elevator. The day before, Marcus had watched from the balcony as a young intern collided with Isaiah's cart, sending a coffee cup crashing to the marble with a sharp crack. Papers scattered, coffee pooled, panic rising in the intern's face. But Isaiah hadn't flinched. He had crouched down, offering a soft smile, gently collecting the papers, wiping the floor with smooth, practiced movements, nodding as if to say, "It's okay, you're okay." The intern had walked away still shaken, but Isaiah had returned to mopping as if nothing had happened, a soft hymn humming under his breath that Marcus couldn't hear but could feel in the way the young man's shoulders relaxed. Marcus had built his empire on noticing things others missed: a competitor's hesitation, a crack in a supplier's voice during negotiations. But this was the first time he noticed someone like Isaiah. He didn't understand why he couldn't stop watching him, why he found himself lingering near the glass railing on the mezzanine floor each morning, coffee cooling in his hand, observing the janitor work with the same precision Marcus demanded in his boardrooms. One early morning, Marcus saw Isaiah pause to help an elderly security guard, Mr. Hernandez, whose hand was trembling as he tried to unscrew the cap of his thermos. Isaiah took the thermos gently, opened it without a word, and handed it back with a small smile. Mr. Hernandez patted Isaiah's shoulder, gratitude in his tired eyes. Isaiah returned to mopping as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "Who is that janitor?" Marcus asked his executive assistant, Julia, one morning, unable to hide his curiosity. Julia glanced at her tablet. "Isaiah Carter, night shift janitor. Been here 3 years, no issues, no complaints, no sick days recorded in the last 2 years. Marcus nodded, saying nothing, but a seed of something unfamiliar settled in his chest, a curiosity that felt dangerously close to concern. Why did this young man, who moved so quietly through life, command more respect in his silence than some of Marcus's highest-paid executives did with all their loud confidence? That evening, Marcus worked late, the city lights blinking outside his office like distant stars, the silence thick around him. As he walked through the lobby, he found Isaiah kneeling by the front door, fixing a hinge that had been squeaking for weeks. There had been maintenance requests, but no one had bothered to address it. Isaiah, with a small toolkit from his cart, tightened the screws, checked the alignment, and wiped the handle clean before standing, stretching his back with a small wince of pain he tried to hide. Marcus stood there, briefcase in hand, watching. For a moment, their eyes met, and Isaiah gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement that felt oddly respectful, yet equal. Marcus wanted to say something, maybe thank him, but the words stuck in his throat, and he walked past, the glass doors closing behind him with a soft hiss. But that night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat on his balcony, the cool air brushing against his face, thinking about the young janitor who fixed things no one else cared about, who helped people without expecting anything in return, who worked quietly in a world that didn't see him. Marcus, who could buy almost anything he wanted, realized there was something about Isaiah he couldn't understand, and that unsettled him. The next morning, Marcus arrived earlier than usual, coffee in hand, leaning against the railing, watching Isaiah wipe down the elevator buttons, carefully disinfecting each one, humming softly to himself. Marcus noticed the small notebook in Isaiah's pocket, the edges worn, the cover faded. Every once in a while, during a break, Isaiah would pull it out and write something in it, his brow furrowed in concentration before he tucked it away and returned to work. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this young man than the world saw. One evening, as he prepared to leave, he saw Isaiah sitting outside the building on the curb, a plastic bag beside him, waiting for the bus. The exhaustion in Isaiah's posture was clear, but so was the way he sat up straight, as if he refused to let life's weight crush him. Marcus stood by his car, hidden in the shadows, watching, feeling an ache in his chest he didn't recognize. The next day, Marcus found himself waiting again, this time determined to follow. As Isaiah boarded the bus, Marcus told his driver to follow at a distance. The bus rattled through parts of the city Marcus hadn't seen in years, blocks where the streetlights flickered, where storefronts were shuttered, where the world felt heavier, older, forgotten. The bus stopped in front of a small, crumbling apartment building with graffiti on the walls and a rusted fire escape clinging to its side like a tired skeleton. Isaiah got off, adjusting the straps of his worn backpack, and walked inside, nodding to an elderly neighbor on the stoop who coughed softly in response. Marcus sat in the car, staring at the building, realizing for the first time in a long time how far removed he was from the world most people lived in. The car smelled of leather and success, but outside, there was a world where survival was the victory, where getting home safe was the goal, where people like Isaiah lived with dignity despite having so little. That night, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the janitor who worked tirelessly to fix a squeaky hinge, who helped a security guard open a thermos, who cleaned floors with care while listening to something on his earbuds, who returned to a small apartment with cracked walls and a flickering hallway light. Marcus, for all his wealth, realized he had never seen the world the way Isaiah did, never carried himself with the quiet strength that came from enduring without bitterness. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt small, not because he had less, but because he had so much yet understood so little. Marcus had never felt out of place in any room, but sitting in his sleek car across from Isaiah's crumbling apartment building, he felt like an intruder, peering into a world he was never meant to see. It was past midnight, the streetlight buzzing weakly, throwing an amber glow over cracked sidewalks. Marcus watched as Isaiah climbed the narrow staircase, pausing to help an old woman balance her grocery bags. She patted his hand, a soft smile in her tired eyes, and Marcus realized that here, Isaiah was not invisible. Here, he mattered. Marcus returned the next evening, sitting in his car with the engine off, his phone buzzing with emails he ignored for the first time in years. He saw Isaiah step out in the dark, dressed in a thin jacket against the cold, slipping quietly into the shadows, carrying a small plastic bag with what looked like sandwiches wrapped carefully inside. Isaiah moved down the street, knocking softly on a door where a young mother answered, her toddler clinging to her leg. Isaiah handed over the bag with a quiet nod, receiving a whispered thank you before turning away, unnoticed by the world, but seen by the few who needed him most. It was the first of many stops Isaiah made that night. An elderly veteran living alone, a single father working double shifts at a gas station, a teenage girl trying to finish high school while caring for her younger siblings. Isaiah visited each, leaving behind a small offering, a sandwich, a warm drink, a kind word, a promise that they were not alone. Marcus felt his throat tighten as he realized that the janitor he had barely noticed at work was a lifeline for so many others. The next day at the office, Marcus couldn't focus. The reports, the financial projections, the endless meetings all felt hollow. He found himself standing by the mezzanine, coffee in hand, watching Isaiah mop the floors with that same quiet focus. Isaiah caught his eye for a moment, nodded, and returned to his work, completely unaware of the ripple he had sent through Marcus's carefully controlled world. Marcus decided he needed to know more. He instructed Julia to find out what she could about Isaiah, but Julia's report was thin. Isaiah Carter, 28, no criminal record, high school graduate, no college education on file, works the night shift, never late, never complains, takes extra shifts when offered, lives in a low-income neighborhood, pays rent on time, no known relatives in the city. Marcus stared at the report, feeling frustrated at how little it told him about the man who moved like a ghost, leaving behind small acts of kindness that no one saw. That evening, Marcus followed Isaiah again, this time getting out of the car, keeping his distance as Isaiah moved from door to door, offering food and comfort like a silent angel walking the streets. Marcus felt shame crawl up his spine as he realized he had the means to help thousands, yet did nothing, while Isaiah, with his minimum wage paycheck, was feeding people out of his own pocket. He followed Isaiah to a small community center, its paint peeling, the sign crooked. But inside, the lights were on, and warmth spilled out onto the cold street. Marcus peered through the window and saw Isaiah sitting with a group of teenagers, helping them with their homework, his notebook open, explaining math problems with patience and encouragement. The teenagers laughed with him, their eyes lighting up as they understood the problems they had struggled with alone. Isaiah high-fived one of the boys who got the answer right, his face breaking into a smile Marcus had never seen at the office, a smile of genuine joy. Marcus felt something inside him crack. He turned away from the window, his breath visible in the cold air, realizing that Isaiah was building something far more meaningful than any business empire. Marcus, for all his wealth, had never inspired someone to smile like that simply because he showed up and cared. The next day, Marcus called Julia into his office. "I want to double the janitorial staff's salaries," he said abruptly, his voice firm. Julia blinked, surprised. "Sir?" "And add full health benefits," Marcus continued, ignoring her shock. "Effective immediately." Julia nodded slowly, a smile touching her lips for the first time in a long time. "I'll make it happen." But it wasn't enough. Marcus knew it wasn't about charity. It was about seeing people, valuing them, and lifting them up in ways that could change their lives, the way Isaiah was doing every night without recognition or applause. That evening, Marcus approached Isaiah at the lobby, the soft hum of the floor buffer filling the silence between them. Isaiah looked up, earbuds out, eyebrows raised. "Isaiah, right?" Marcus said, his voice almost hesitant. "Yes, sir," Isaiah replied, standing straighter, wiping his hands on his uniform. "I just wanted to say thank you," Marcus managed, the words foreign on his tongue. Isaiah tilted his head, confused. "For what, sir?" "For fixing the door," Marcus said, knowing it was a weak excuse, but unable to say what he truly meant. Isaiah smiled, a small, genuine smile. "Just part of the job, sir." Marcus nodded and walked away, but in his mind, he was screaming the truth. "Thank you for reminding me what it means to be human." That night, Marcus found himself outside the community center again, this time with a donation envelope in hand. He slipped it under the door, anonymous, knowing it would help but still feeling it wasn't enough. As he turned to leave, he saw Isaiah standing there, holding a small girl in his arms as she cried, comforting her with soft words Marcus couldn't hear. Isaiah looked up, saw Marcus, and for a moment, their eyes met. Isaiah gave a small nod, as if acknowledging Marcus's presence, and then turned back to the child, rocking her gently, the world outside the center forgotten in that moment of compassion. Marcus drove home that night with tears in his eyes, realizing he had spent his life chasing wealth, respect, and fear, while Isaiah was building something far more powerful, hope. Marcus couldn't sleep. The image of Isaiah holding that little girl, comforting her as if the world outside didn't exist, replayed in his mind with painful clarity. He got up, walked to his office, and stood by the massive window overlooking the city's lights, the skyline glittering like jewels. But tonight, the lights looked cold, sterile, and empty. He thought about all the contracts he had signed, the deals he had made, the millions he had earned, and for the first time, he wondered what it was all worth if it didn't change a single life. The next morning, Marcus walked into the office, exhausted but clear-headed. He spotted Isaiah near the elevators, rolling his cart, polishing the brass edges with careful precision. Marcus felt the hesitation, the weight of words he had never spoken to an employee before, building in his chest. "Isaiah," he called softly. Isaiah paused, turning around, a polite, patient smile on his face. "Yes, sir." Marcus cleared his throat. "I'd like to talk, if you have a moment." Isaiah blinked, caught off guard, but nodded. "Sure, sir." They stepped into a small side office, the silence so heavy Marcus could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Marcus gestured for Isaiah to sit, but Isaiah remained standing, clutching his cleaning rag, unsure of what was happening. Marcus struggled to find the words, his throat tightening. "I saw you the other night, at the community center." Isaiah's eyes widened, his shoulders tensing. "Sir, I can explain." Marcus raised a hand gently. "No, Isaiah. You don't have to explain anything. I just wanted to say thank you." Isaiah's eyes softened, confusion mixing with caution. "Thank you, sir, for reminding me what it means to care," Marcus whispered. Isaiah looked away, swallowing hard. "I'm just doing what I can, sir." Marcus nodded slowly, a bitter smile on his lips. "You're doing more than I ever did." The silence stretched, both men lost in their thoughts, the world outside continuing with its relentless pace, while they stood in that small room, a janitor and a millionaire, suddenly equals in the honesty of that moment. That night, Marcus couldn't help himself. He drove back to Isaiah's neighborhood, parking outside the community center, watching as families trickled in, children laughing, mothers carrying babies, teenagers joking quietly among themselves. Marcus stepped out of his car, the cold wind biting through his tailored coat as he approached the entrance. Inside, the center was alive with warmth and chatter, Isaiah moving between tables, helping a young boy with math, refilling cups of hot cocoa, and laughing with the teenagers about music and sports. Marcus stood by the door, unnoticed, observing the genuine connection Isaiah had with each person in the room. Then it happened. A loud crash echoed from the back of the building, followed by the sharp sound of splintering wood. The door had broken off its hinges, the frame cracked from years of wear, and the weight of being opened and closed too many times. The room fell silent, eyes turning toward the noise, fear and frustration washing over the faces of those who depended on this place as a refuge. Isaiah rushed to the back, inspecting the damage, his shoulders slumping as he realized they couldn't afford to fix it. A young mother spoke quietly. "What are we going to do now, Isaiah?" Isaiah ran a hand over his tired face, forcing a smile. "We'll figure it out. We always do." Marcus stepped forward, his voice firm but kind. "Let me help." Every head turned, eyes wide as they saw him standing there, out of place in his expensive coat, looking around at the humble space with something like reverence in his eyes. Isaiah stood up slowly, shaking his head. "Sir, you don't have to—" "I want to," Marcus interrupted, his voice unwavering. Isaiah's jaw tightened, pride battling gratitude in his eyes. "We can't pay you back." "I don't want payment," Marcus said softly. "Consider it an investment in something real." Isaiah looked at him for a long moment, then nodded, the room exhaling collectively, the tension easing as hope returned. That weekend, Marcus returned with contractors who replaced the door, fixed the cracked windows, repaired the heating system, and repainted the walls. The children watched with wide eyes, the mothers smiling as warmth returned to the building, the sense of safety restored. As the work was being finished, Marcus sat with Isaiah outside on the steps, sharing coffee in paper cups. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the street, the golden light catching on the laughter drifting from inside. Marcus turned to Isaiah. "Why do you do it? You could leave this all behind, find a better paying job." Isaiah's eyes grew distant, a small, sad smile playing on his lips. "My mother used to bring me here when I was a kid. We didn't have much, but this place, it was our safe haven. After she passed away, I promised her I'd keep it alive for others." Marcus swallowed hard, feeling the heaviness of Isaiah's words sink into him. "Your mother sounds like an incredible woman." "She was," Isaiah whispered, looking up at the sky, blinking back tears. "She always told me, 'Isaiah, we might be poor in money, but we're rich in love, and that's what matters.' I didn't understand it then, but now I do." Marcus looked away, ashamed at how many times he had measured worth in dollars and cents, while Isaiah measured it in smiles, hope, and love. As the weeks passed, Marcus continued to visit the community center, helping quietly, sweeping floors, serving food, and repairing whatever needed fixing. The families began to accept his presence, the children running up to him with drawings and stories, the mothers thanking him with warm embraces that felt like forgiveness he didn't know he needed. Isaiah and Marcus formed an unlikely friendship. Two men from different worlds, bound by a shared desire to make a difference. They would sit late into the night, planning how to expand the center, dreaming about after-school programs, job training, and a community kitchen. For the first time, Marcus felt alive, felt purpose, felt human. One evening, as they locked up the center, Marcus turned to Isaiah. "You know, I've spent my life building things I thought mattered, but none of them felt as real as this." Isaiah smiled, clapping a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "That's because this is real, Marcus. You're building people, not just profits." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes, quickly blinking them away, but Isaiah saw and nodded, understanding without words. It was in these moments, simple and raw, that Marcus realized wealth wasn't just about money. It was about the lives you touched, the hope you spread, and the communities you built. And in Isaiah's world, Marcus found the redemption he didn't know he needed. The renewed warmth of the community center breathed new life into the neighborhood. Children filled the rooms with laughter, their voices weaving a tapestry of hope and joy. Isaiah watched them with tired eyes, but a heart fuller than it had been in years. Marcus had become a constant presence, not as the untouchable millionaire, but as a friend, a partner in this quiet revolution. Yet, the fragile peace was about to be tested. One rainy morning, Isaiah arrived early to unlock the center, his body aching from sleepless nights and relentless work. His hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with the keys. The door creaked open, and before he could step inside, a stern voice stopped him. "Mr. Walker," a woman called from behind, holding a clipboard tightly against her chest. "I'm from the city's Department of Buildings. We're here for an inspection." Isaiah's stomach sank. The center had passed previous inspections by the skin of its teeth, but recent budget cuts and new regulations had made compliance nearly impossible for small nonprofits. "Is there a problem?" Isaiah asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The inspector's gaze was cold but professional. "There are reports of structural concerns, fire code violations, and accessibility issues. If these aren't resolved, the center will have to close." Isaiah's heart pounded. Closing the center meant breaking the fragile lifeline for dozens of families. He swallowed the lump in his throat and nodded. "We'll do whatever we can to meet the requirements." Word of the inspection spread quickly, and that afternoon Marcus arrived at the center, dressed in a casual jacket, his face serious but determined. "They want to shut us down," Isaiah said, showing Marcus the list of violations. "There's no way we can fix all this with the resources we have." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, frustrated but refusing to give up. "I'll call some people. We'll get this sorted." But the city bureaucracy was impenetrable, even for a man like Marcus. Calls went unanswered, meetings were delayed, and the deadlines loomed like a storm on the horizon. Marcus felt the sharp sting of powerlessness, a sensation unfamiliar and humbling. Meanwhile, Isaiah's health began to falter. The long hours, stress, and years of physical labor took their toll. One evening, as he climbed the stairs to the center, a sudden sharp pain seized his chest, causing him to collapse against the railing. A passerby called for help, and Isaiah was rushed to the hospital. The news hit Marcus like a freight train. He sat by Isaiah's bedside, holding the rough hands of the man who had become more than an employee, a brother, a beacon of light in a dark world. "Isaiah," Marcus whispered, voice thick with emotion, "you can't do this alone. You have to let people help you." Isaiah's eyes opened slowly, filled with pain but also stubborn resolve. "I have to keep going. These kids need this place. They don't have anyone else." Marcus nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "Then let me be someone for them. Let me carry the weight with you." Back at the community center, Marcus fought relentlessly against the city's red tape. He attended hearings, enlisted architects and lawyers, and leveraged every connection he had. Slowly, the impossible began to look achievable. Isaiah, recovering but still fragile, watched Marcus battle on his behalf with a mixture of pride and humility. "I never imagined someone like you would care this much," he admitted one afternoon as they sat on the front steps, watching children play. Marcus shrugged, smiling softly. "You changed something in me. I realized what really matters." But the fight wasn't without sacrifices. Marcus had to confront his own pride, learning to listen rather than command. To admit when he didn't have all the answers, Isaiah too had to accept that vulnerability didn't mean weakness, and that accepting help was a form of strength. Together, they transformed not just the center, but themselves. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at City Hall, Marcus and Isaiah sat quietly in the now warm and lively center. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the walls that now held hope instead of despair. Isaiah broke the silence. "You know, my mom always said, 'It takes a village.' I think she was right, and now I finally feel like I'm part of one." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of those words. "Me too." As the camera pans out, the community center buzzes with life. The sound of children's laughter, the clinking of dishes in the kitchen, soft music, and warm conversations. Outside, the city lights flicker, a reminder that even in the darkest places, light can break through. The evening air hung heavy with a quiet stillness as Isaiah sat alone on the worn wooden bench outside the community center. The distant sounds of the city faded into the background, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. His eyes, usually steady and resolute, shimmered with unspoken memories. Tonight, the past was not content to stay buried. Isaiah's mind drifted back to a time when the streets were less forgiving, a childhood marked by pain, loss, and a relentless fight to survive. The creak of a rusty gate transported him to a small house where laughter once filled the rooms, but was now replaced by silence. His mother's warm smile, the only light in those dark days, flashed vividly before his eyes. She had dreamed of a better life for him, a future beyond the struggles that surrounded them. But tragedy had struck early. Isaiah recalled the night the sirens wailed, the flashing red and blue lights painting the walls, and the heavy knock that shattered their fragile sanctuary. His mother had been taken away, a victim of a system that too often failed those who needed it most. Alone and scared, Isaiah had been forced to grow up fast, navigating the cold streets with nothing but determination as his shield. That same night, Marcus was dealing with his own storm. He sat across from his father in the cold, imposing dining room of their family estate. The room was filled with the clinking of silverware and tense silence. Marcus had not returned home for years, but today he had come with purpose, to confront the family he once belonged to and to stand firmly in the man he had become. "You're throwing away everything," his father said, voice low but heavy with accusation. "This charity work, the community center, it's a distraction from what matters, the family legacy." Marcus looked at the stern face of the man who had taught him to value wealth above all else. What legacy? One built on greed and silence? I'm trying to build something real, something that actually changes lives." His father's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the world. You never will." Marcus shook his head, the fire in his eyes unwavering. "Maybe I understand it better than you do. Maybe I'm just brave enough to try." Back at the community center, the financial crisis loomed like a dark cloud threatening to snuff out the flickering light of hope. Despite Marcus's efforts, funds were running dangerously low. The grants that had promised salvation were delayed, and the bills piled higher each day. The once bustling center now faced the harsh reality of potential closure. Isaiah and Marcus sat at the kitchen table late into the night, surrounded by stacks of invoices and letters of rejection. The weight of responsibility pressed down on them both, but neither was willing to surrender. "We have to keep fighting," Isaiah said, voice resolute despite the exhaustion etched on his face. "These kids need this place more than ever." Marcus nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. "We will. Somehow, we will." Just when hope seemed scarce, an unexpected ally arrived. A local business owner named Elena Martinez, known for her philanthropic spirit and unwavering commitment to the community, stepped forward. She had watched the center's struggle from afar and was moved by the passion and perseverance of Isaiah and Marcus. Elena's arrival brought renewed energy and resources. She organized fundraisers, rallied local support, and used her connections to open doors previously closed. Her belief in their mission was infectious, inspiring the community to come together in ways they hadn't before. Together, Isaiah, Marcus, and Elena formed an unbreakable triad of hope. Their combined efforts began to turn the tide. The community center not only survived, but flourished, becoming a beacon of resilience and unity in a city too often defined by division. The battles they fought were many: bureaucratic hurdles, personal demons, and societal obstacles. But their spirits remained unyielding. Each setback was met with renewed vigor, each victory a testament to the power of compassion and courage. As the sun rose over the city, casting golden light on the freshly painted walls of the community center, Isaiah stood at the entrance, a soft smile playing on his lips. The laughter of children echoed within, a symphony of hope and promise. Marcus joined him, his usual confident demeanor softened by genuine warmth. "We're just getting started," he said. The early morning sun filtered through the cracked windows of the community center, casting long shadows over the worn floors. For Isaiah and Marcus, what should have been another day of progress quickly spiraled into a storm they had not anticipated. A loud knock shattered the quiet. Marcus opened the door to find a group of city officials, accompanied by armed officers. They carried legal documents and stern expressions. The message was clear. An urgent cease and desist order had been issued. The community center was to shut down immediately, citing alleged zoning violations and safety concerns. Isaiah's heart sank. "This can't be happening," he whispered. The place that had become a sanctuary for so many was now under threat. Marcus stepped forward, his calm demeanor masking a rising fury. "There must be some mistake. We've complied with every regulation. There's no reason to close this place." The lead official shook his head. "Orders come from above. Until further notice, you are to cease all operations." Word of the closure spread rapidly through the neighborhood, igniting waves of disbelief and anger. Families who had found hope within the center's walls now faced the harsh reality of losing their refuge. Children's laughter was replaced by whispered fears and tearful prayers. Isaiah found himself at a crossroads. The weight of the community's expectations pressed down on him with crushing force. He questioned everything: the sacrifices, the struggles, the endless battles fought against a system that seemed intent on breaking them. In the midst of this turmoil, Marcus faced a new challenge. His estranged family, threatened by the growing influence of the community center, and Marcus's break from their legacy, began a covert campaign to undermine his efforts. Anonymous letters were sent to city officials, old grudges were stirred, and whispers of scandal were spread to tarnish Marcus's reputation. Late one night, as Marcus pored over documents in his office, a chilling message appeared. a warning to back down or face ruin. The stakes had never been higher. Meanwhile, Isaiah's leadership was put to the ultimate test. Facing despair within the community and pressure from every direction, he struggled to keep faith alive. Doubt crept into his heart, threatening to extinguish the flame he had fought so hard to nurture. But in the darkest moments, the true strength of a leader shines brightest. Isaiah gathered the community together, standing before them with unwavering resolve. "This center is more than just a building," he declared. "It's a symbol of our fight, our hope, and our future. We will not let them take this away from us." Inspired by Isaiah's courage, the community rallied like never before. Protests filled the streets, social media buzzed with calls for justice, and local media began to shine a spotlight on their struggle. The battle had become bigger than any one person. It was a movement. Elena's fundraising efforts intensified, bringing in resources that allowed the center to hire legal counsel and launch a campaign to fight back against the city's orders. The climax came during a powerful public hearing. Hundreds packed into the council chambers, voices united in a chorus of determination and hope. Isaiah spoke from the heart, sharing his story, the community's needs, and the center's irreplaceable value. Marcus stood beside him, offering not just his voice, but his influence and resources to ensure their victory. After hours of tense debate, the council voted to rescind the closure order, granting the community center a renewed lease on life. The victory was hard-won, but it solidified the center's place as a beacon of resilience. The bonds forged in the fires of adversity had created a family stronger than ever before. As the sun set that evening, Isaiah and Marcus stood side by side, their faces lit by the warm glow of the center's lights. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, the horizon looked bright. Months had passed since the battle to save the community center, but for Isaiah, the real journey was only beginning. The victory was more than a legal win. It was a symbol of what could happen when compassion met courage, and when unlikely allies stood together. The center, once threatened with closure, was now a thriving hub, filled with laughter, learning, and the promise of a better tomorrow. Isaiah's life had transformed in ways he never imagined. The shy, quiet janitor who had once felt invisible now stood as a pillar of hope. He had found purpose not in the corners of empty rooms, but in the bright eyes of the children he helped guide. Every hug, every smile, every word of encouragement fueled his soul. The ring on his finger, a keepsake from his mother, had become a symbol of endurance, a reminder that legacy is built not by wealth, but by the love we leave behind. Marcus, too, had changed. His relationship with his family remained strained, but he no longer sought their approval. Instead, he focused on rewriting his own story, one that embraced justice, empathy, and genuine leadership. He poured resources into the center, transforming it into a model for other cities grappling with similar challenges. At a press conference, Marcus announced a new initiative: scholarships for youth from underserved communities and a mentorship program to empower future leaders. His words resonated far beyond the walls of the center, sparking a movement that bridged divides and inspired action. But the true heart of the story lay not in the accolades or headlines, but in the quiet moments. Isaiah teaching a young boy how to read, Marcus sitting on the floor with a group of teens discussing their dreams, Elena coordinating volunteers with tireless energy. These were the building blocks of change, the human connections that money could never buy. One chilly evening, as the city lights flickered on, Isaiah received an unexpected visitor. An elderly woman, her eyes filled with gratitude and warmth, stepped through the doors. It was Mrs. Coleman, a longtime neighbor who had watched Isaiah's journey from the beginning. "You've done more than I ever hoped," she said softly. "You've given us all a reason to believe again." Tears welled up in Isaiah's eyes. "I didn't do this alone. We did this together." The community center's success began to ripple across the city. Other neighborhoods adopted their model, and the story of the janitor turned hero spread far and wide. But for Isaiah, the greatest reward was knowing that his mother's dreams had lived on. that her hope had ignited a fire that could never be extinguished. In a quiet moment, Isaiah stood before a newly unveiled mural on the center's exterior wall, a vibrant depiction of his mother, the children, and the community united. The words beneath read, "Legacy is love." He touched the ring on his finger, feeling the weight of the past and the promise of the future. Marcus joined him, placing a hand on Isaiah's shoulder. "You changed my life," he said quietly. Isaiah smiled. "We changed each other's." Together, they looked out at the horizon where a new dawn was breaking. Not just for them, but for everyone who dared to believe that even the smallest light could push back the darkness. If this story of courage, redemption, and hope touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales proving that ordinary people can create extraordinary change when they refuse to give up. End of series.